Near-death experience may be defined as a lucid experience that occurs at a time of an imminent life-threatening event. And yet, at a time of unconsciousness, people are having these vivid, lucid experiences.
In a moment, I was just somewhere else.
All of a sudden, I heard a voice.
I did not want to believe this.
I live my life through that experience.
There's millions of Americans that have had a near-death experience. They're not rare. When I first heard about near-death experiences, I thought they were so fantastic that I wanted to believe this, but an extraordinary claim like that requires extraordinary evidence.
I certainly understand people's skepticism about this. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd be skeptical about it too. Was I just suffering from hypoxia, which is just oxygen starvation of the brain? Was this something that could have brought about this hallucination?
I sat there and thought to myself, this story just sounds crazy. Nobody's going to believe this. I mean, I was a pretty big spiritual skeptic, and to say those things or to even think about that experience was a lot for me to take in.
I did not want to believe this, but I've been in the presence of dying people more than any skeptic I've ever met, and I have argued with the best of them.
It's a global type of experience, and we have tons of people from all over the world who have submitted their near-death experience.
My near-death experience happened in 1998. We were down on the beach running around, having a good time, and I had a really bad allergic reaction. Everything was just locking down inside my body, and I was going into shock. I just kept saying to myself, I've got to breathe. I've got to breathe. I've got to breathe.
My dad and I were at the Shawnee Mission, Kansas Department of Motor Vehicles, leaving the building when I unexpectedly fell into and through his arms and into the sidewalk outside. A uniformed nurse happened to be walking by. She determined I didn't have a pulse. I didn't seem to be breathing. I was dead on the sidewalk.
I found myself going on this whitewater rafting trip on the South Fork of Payette River, Idaho. Almost immediately, we got into trouble. The raft went perpendicular, and the guys in the front of the raft fell back and hit me. I actually felt my body shut down.
I was just making breakfast for my kids in my own kitchen, and I slipped on a spot of oil or something, and I fell to my knees, and when that happened, it jolted me so severely that I blacked out. All I knew was when I woke up, I was flat on my back, and I was paralyzed from the waist down. My stomach started to swell up like a balloon. From what the doctors could see, everything just shut down. My heart stopped, my breathing stopped. I just quit on them.
I was in the second to the fast lane on the freeway. About 130, zipping along 65. There wasn't a lot of folks out. And I looked down, all of a sudden here's the rear tires of his car, right there. You know, I'm just like, so I dove to the right side of the car, and everything just slowed. And then you can hear the glass, and you can hear the impact, the screeching tires, and it's just incredible, just the amount of impact that you get. Of course, the folks from the freeway came up, poked their head in the windows, and looked at me and said, man, I think this guy's dead.
I was invited to go on a float trip of Hell's Canyon. It was a beautiful day, and everybody was really happy to be there. All of a sudden, we were in Class 5 rapids, which are the biggest rolling rapids, and the raft that we were on completely turned over. I was caught underneath the raft. I think I remember saying, well, Libby, I guess this is it. Like, signing off.
I think what drives my belief was the overwhelming consistency of the NDE elements and of what NDEers are telling us. Very commonly, the first event in an NDE is a separation of consciousness, that being their point of vision and what they can hear actually separates from the body.
Boom, I was back up sitting in the corner of this room, looking at my body, which is still laying there on this table.
You're not really floating. It's not like floating. You're actually standing, and then you're up. And you could look around and see things that are happening.
First, I heard a woman's voice saying, "I'm not getting a pulse, I'm not getting a pulse." And I turned to her, and with the same sense of reality with which I am now speaking, I said, "Of course you're getting a pulse. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking." I had no sense of being in physical danger at all.
Following that, commonly in near-death experiences, they'll go through a tunnel. And as they go to the end of that tunnel, they may encounter a light, they may encounter a being. And following that, they can often be in some unearthly, or if you will, heavenly realm.
I was whirling through this tunnel, and there were these light streaks that I was kind of going by, and I was coming out into this big, sort of luminous gray-white cloud.
This is the point of the experience when it's really difficult to really articulate the events that happen, because any terms I use are not going to be all that accurate.
And then there was a light that came that blew away all the gray, foggy material. And talk about no words. It was so bright. I could see. It was so bright. It was brighter than our sun, but no squinting. It was all love. It sounds so, I don't know. I have never found a way to talk about this light.
It just took my breath away. I just had to sit there for a moment and think about how beautiful this place was.
That was the real world there. You know, that was really home.
Following that, there's often a life review. Life reviews occur in about a fourth of near-death experiences.
The review was everything that ever happened to me, and yet it seemed to happen in